I come back home and find Mom's BF has moved in with his kid, and then he punched the wall to threaten me, and my mom sided with him, so I moved to live with my dad, but later they need my help and they are desperate. So I, 22 male, grew up pretty normal I guess, played football in middle school, wasn't great but I could hold my own. I was more of a defensive player, not the fastest guy on the field but I could tackle pretty damn hard. Coach used to say I had good instincts. My dad, 46 male, taught me how to fish when I was like 9. And we'd go camping almost every summer before the divorce happened. Those trips were the best. We'd pack up the old Chevy Tahoe with way too much gear, drive out to Lake Meredith, and spend 3 or 4 days just living off the land. Well, living off the land if you count bringing a cooler full of hot dogs and beer, soda for us kids. But Dad did teach me how to catch catfish, clean them, and cook them over a fire. Still one of the most useful skills I have. I'm the oldest with a sister, 17 female, and brother, 15 male. My sister, Emma, is crazy smart, like skipped a grade and still gets straight A's smart. My brother, Liam, is the artistic one, always drawing or making these little sculptures out of whatever he can find. We were just your average suburban family, 2-story house in a decent neighborhood. Not rich, but comfortable. Dad worked as a sales manager for a medical supply company. Mom was a part-time dental hygienist. We had a Nintendo Switch we'd fight over and a trampoline in the backyard that the neighborhood kids would come over to use. Everything changed when my parents split when I was 13. I still remember the night they sat us down in the living room. Dad had tears in his eyes which freaked me out because I'd literally never seen him cry before. Mom just looked empty. They gave us some speech about how they still loved us but couldn't live together anymore. Classic divorce bullshit that's supposed to make kids feel better, but just makes everything more confusing. The divorce wasn't even that bad at first. Standard 50-50 custody, switching houses every week. Mom moved into a 3-bedroom apartment about 20 minutes from our house, which Dad kept. It was an adjustment, but we managed. The worst part was probably packing a bag every Sunday night to switch places. Always felt like I was forgetting something important. My mom seemed okay for a while. She'd take us to movies, try to make the apartment feel homey with these little decorative pillows and shit. She even started taking some community college classes, said she wanted to become a dental assistant instead of just a hygienist. Then she met Rick, 47 male. I'll never forget that day. We showed up for our regular weekend at Mom's, and there's this dude and his daughter Megan, 20 female now, just living there. No warning. No, hey kids, I'm dating someone. Just boom. Instant new family. Rick was this big guy, probably 6 feet 2 inches with this thick salt and pepper beard and forearms covered in these faded blue tattoos. Turns out he worked as a foreman at some manufacturing plant. Had this way of talking really loud like he was always trying to be heard over machinery even when he was just sitting at the dinner table. His daughter, Megan, was quiet, kept to herself mostly. She had this nervous habit of twirling her hair around her finger when anyone talked to her directly. Rick acted all nice at first, the classic honeymoon phase bullshit. He'd bring home ice cream for everyone or offer to help me with math homework, which was a joke because the dude couldn't even figure out percentages. But it only took about 3 weeks before his real personality came out. The guy had the shortest fuse I've ever seen. I remember going back to Dad's after that first weekend and him asking how it went. I just shrugged and said, Mom's got a boyfriend now and his kid. Dad just nodded and asked if I wanted to talk about it. I didn't. Should have known something was off by how fast they moved in together. Red flag city. The first time I saw Rick lose it was over something so stupid. My brother left a glass on the coffee table without a coaster. Rick came in, saw it, and just exploded. Who the fuck left this here? He screamed, veins popping out of his neck like those 3D anatomy models in science class. When my brother admitted it was him, Rick punched the wall so hard he left a hole in the drywall. My brother was shaking. He was only 10 at the time. Mom rushed in from the kitchen, saw the hole, and immediately started trying to calm Rick down. It's okay, honey. It's just a little watermark. We can sand it out. She didn't even check on my brother, who was literally trembling in the corner of the couch. I remember putting my arm around him and glaring at Rick, who just stormed off muttering about respect for other people's property. That was just the beginning. Rick's greatest hits include putting his fist through a hollow door because dinner wasn't ready on time, throwing his phone across the room because his boss called on a Saturday, punching a hole in the bathroom tile because someone used his towel, kicking our dog's food bowl across the kitchen because it was in his way, throwing a PlayStation controller through the TV screen when his team lost, snapping a broom handle over his knee when he couldn't. To get the dustpan to work right, crushing an empty beer can so hard it cut his hand, then punching the refrigerator because he was bleeding. Each time, it was like watching a bomb go off. His face would get all red, starting at his neck and working its way up. His eyes would get real wide, and there'd be this moment of eerie calm right before he'd explode. We got good at reading the signs and making ourselves scarce. The worst part was how my mom would just clean up after him, patch the walls, replace the doors, make excuses. "Rick's just passionate," she'd say. "He had a hard childhood." Or my personal favorite, "He's under a lot of pressure at work." As if that justified terrorizing 3 kids who were already dealing with their parents' divorce. But the real bullshit was how he expected us to call him dad and show him respect. One time, I referred to my actual father as dad in front of him, and Rick got in my face saying, "I put food on your table and a roof over your head. I'm the man of this house now." I wanted to point out that it was technically Mom's apartment that we all lived in, and that Dad paid child support that probably covered most of our food, but I knew better than to argue. That was a lesson we all learned pretty quick. Don't argue with Rick unless you want to see something get broken. We developed this whole silent communication system between us kids. A certain look meant, "Rick's about to blow. Get to your room." Another meant, "Distract him while I help Emma get away." We became this tight unit, watching out for each other because it felt like Mom had checked out. I hit the gym hard during those years. Started working out every day, partly to stay out of the house, partly because I wanted to be able to defend myself and my siblings if it ever came to that. Rick was bigger than me, but I was getting stronger every month. The local YMCA became my sanctuary. I'd sneak Emma and Liam in sometimes too, just to give them a break from the tension at home. There was this trainer there named Miguel who noticed I was there all the time. He started giving me pointers, showed me proper form, eventually offered to train me for free as long as I helped clean the gym after hours. Miguel became kind of a mentor to me during those dark years. He'd been through some shit himself as a kid and seemed to understand what I was dealing with without me having to explain much. By my sophomore year, I was benching 225, squatting 315, and had started learning basic boxing from Miguel. I wasn't trying to become the next UFC champion or anything. I just wanted to be strong enough that Rick would think twice before trying anything physical with us. Rick noticed the changes in my physique, started making these comments like, "Getting pretty big there, tough guy," or "What are you trying to prove with all those muscles?" I never responded, just stared back at him until he'd look away first. Meanwhile, my mom got more and more distant. It was like she was fading away, becoming this shell of a person who just orbited around Rick, anticipating his needs and moods. She stopped taking those community college classes, stopped going out with her friends, stopped asking us about school or our lives. Everything revolved around keeping Rick happy and the peace maintained. Things got really bad when I was about 17. Rick started threatening my real dad whenever they had to interact at school events or pickups. I counted at least 5 times where he said shit like, "I'll fuck you up if you ever," to my dad. The first time was at my sister's band concert. Dad came to sit with us, which was normal. He and Mom usually managed to be civil at school stuff. But Rick immediately started huffing and puffing, telling Dad he was sitting in his spot. There were no assigned seats. When Dad calmly said there were plenty of other seats available, Rick leaned in and whispered something I couldn't hear. Dad's face went pale, and he moved several rows back. Later, Dad wouldn't tell me exactly what Rick said, but I heard him on the phone with his brother saying Rick had threatened to wait for him in the parking lot and teach him what happens when you don't respect another man's family. My dad never took the bait. He'd just say, "This isn't the time or place, Rick," and walk away. That pissed Rick off even more because he couldn't get the reaction he wanted. I found out years later that Dad had been documenting every threat, every incident, building a case for when he eventually went for custody. The threats escalated. At a parent-teacher conference, Rick accidentally bumped into Dad hard enough to make him spill coffee all over his shirt. At a football game, Rick loudly told some other parents that my dad was a deadbeat who didn't pay enough child support, a complete lie. Once he even followed Dad out to his car and told him he knew where he lived and what time he left for work in the mornings. Through it all, Dad kept his cool. He never pushed back, never gave Rick the satisfaction of seeing him lose control. I didn't understand it at the time, thought maybe Dad was scared of Rick. It wasn't until much later that I realized he was playing the long game, letting Rick dig his own grave. While all this was happening, things at Mom's house kept getting worse. Rick started drinking more heavily, not just beers after work, but hard liquor at dinner. He'd polish off half a bottle of Jack Daniels on a weeknight, then look for reasons to get pissed off. One weekend, Rick got mad because my sister was texting during dinner. He grabbed her phone and threw it against the wall, shattering it. When I stood up and told him to back off, he got in my face, chest bumping me and asking if I wanted to do something about it. I remember feeling his hot breath on my face, smelling the beer, and seeing my mom's terrified expression behind him. I was 5'11" and 180 pounds by then from all my workouts, and for a second, I almost swung on him. Every fiber in my body wanted to plant my fist right in his smug face, but I knew if I did, I'd be the one in trouble. Rick would call the cops, claim I attacked him, and then we'd be even more trapped in this nightmare. So I did the hardest thing I've ever done. I controlled myself. Instead, I said, touch my sister again, and you'll find out. Then I took my siblings, and we walked out. We called our dad, who drove over immediately and took us to his place. While we were waiting for Dad to arrive, we sat on the curb outside Mom's apartment complex. Emma was crying about her phone, but I could tell it wasn't really about the phone. Liam was trying to act tough, but kept looking over his shoulder at the apartment door like he expected Rick to come charging out. I put my arms around both of them and promised this wouldn't be forever. Somehow, we'd find a way out. That was the last time we stayed at Mom's house. Dad went to court for full custody and won because my sister and I both testified about Rick's behavior. I'll never forget sitting in that witness chair, staring at my mom while I told the judge about living in constant fear of Rick's explosions. Mom wouldn't even look at me, just stared down at her hands the whole time. The judge actually suggested anger management for Rick, which he, of course, refused to do. I don't have an anger problem, he told the court. I have a problem with disrespectful kids who don't appreciate what I do for them. The judge's face when he said that, priceless. It was like watching someone hand over the smoking gun at their own murder trial. Court decided my dad would get full custody. Mom was allowed to see my younger siblings once a week, but only at public places like restaurants or parks. Never at her house where Rick might be present. The judge was crystal clear. Rick wasn't to be present at any visitations. I was supposed to be included in those visits too, but my therapist, yeah, I needed one after all that shit, convinced the court that forcing me to see her would be harmful. Instead, I got stuck with these mandatory weekly phone calls with Mom until I turned 18. Some legal bullshit about courts not wanting to completely sever parent-child relationships before adulthood. The therapist, Dr. Melanie, was actually pretty cool. Dad found her through his company's EAP program. She specialized in teens dealing with trauma and family conflict. First couple sessions, I just sat there not saying much. By the third session, I couldn't stop talking. It was like someone had uncorked a bottle that had been shaken for years. Dr. Melanie helped me understand that Rick's behavior wasn't normal or acceptable and that none of it was our fault. She also helped me deal with the complicated feelings I had about my mom, the anger, the betrayal, but also the weird guilt and the part of me that still missed her. Meanwhile, these weekly calls with Mom are a joke. Usually goes something like, Mom, how are you doing, honey? Me, fine. Mom, how's your job? Me, good. Mom, are you eating enough? Me, yep, gotta go. Meeting the guys for insert excuse. What pisses me off the most is that she had a choice. I confronted her once saying she lost her 3 kids because of Rick. And you know what she said? That Megan needs her because she has no one else. Like, we didn't need our mother. Like, his daughter was somehow more important than her own 3 kids. And look, I get that Megan had it rough. Her mom died of cancer when she was young, and she grew up with Rick's temper. But that wasn't our problem to solve. Mom chose to prioritize being a stepmom to Megan over being an actual mom to us. I went full no contact with Megan. Not her fault her dad's an asshole, but we're not family. I'm not playing pretend brothers and sisters because our parents made bad choices. Adjusting to living full-time with Dad was weird at first. He had to learn how to do all this stuff Mom used to handle. Laundry, cooking for 3 kids, helping Emma with her period stuff, awkward. But he tried. Making sure we got to doctor appointments, but he stepped up in a big way. Even took a demotion at work so he could be home more often for us. His place became home real quick. We each had our own space. I shared a room with Liam, but Dad converted part of the garage into a teen cave where we could hang out with friends or just get away from each other when needed. Emma got her own room since she was the only girl. The first few months we'd all have these nightmares about Rick. Liam would wake up screaming sometimes. Dad would come in, sit on the edge of the bed, and just be there until we fell back asleep. Never pushed us to talk about it if we didn't want to, but always made it clear he was ready to listen if we did. Christmas that first year was tough. Mom kept texting about wanting to see us, have us over for dinner, exchange gifts. Dad left it up to us, and we all decided to stay home. We sent her gifts through the mail. Nothing for Rick, obviously, and she did the same. It was strange opening presents from someone who felt increasingly like a stranger. Dad started dating again about a year after getting custody. He was super careful about it. Never brought anyone home until he'd been seeing them for at least a month. Always introduced them as my friend rather than my girlfriend. Made it clear to us that we were his priority. And if anyone didn't respect that, they were gone. Claire came into the picture when I was 19. She's a nurse practitioner, divorced with no kids of her own. The first time Dad brought her over for dinner, she brought homemade chocolate chip cookies and a board game. Didn't try too hard. Didn't act fake interested in our lives. Just seemed genuinely cool. When Liam mentioned he was struggling with a science project, she offered some suggestions without taking over. She and Emma bonded over some Netflix show they both watched. They got married last year in a small backyard ceremony. Claire moved into our house, bringing her cat Jasper. who somehow manages to get along with Dad's golden retriever, Max. She's never tried to replace Mom, just become another supportive adult in our lives. The difference between her and Rick couldn't be more stark. Fast forward to now, I'm working as a personal trainer at a local gym, not making bank or anything, but I do all right. Miguel hooked me up with the job after I graduated high school. I didn't want to go to college right away. Needed time to figure out what I actually wanted versus what I thought I should do. Been taking some business classes at community college at night thinking, maybe I'll open my own gym someday. I've got my own apartment now, nothing fancy, but it's mine. 1 bedroom in a decent part of town, close enough to the gym that I can run there for my morning workouts. Got a 75-pound German Shepherd named Diesel, who's protective as hell, but gentle with kids. Found him at a rescue event 2 years ago. Someone had abandoned him because he got too big. Their loss. He's the best roommate I could ask for, even if he does hog the bed. The apartment isn't much to look at. Basic furniture, mostly secondhand except for my bed. Splurged on a good mattress because my back gets wrecked from training. Got a decent TV for watching fights, a small patio where I grill when the weather's good, and a pull-up bar in every doorway. It's not fancy, but it's drama-free, which is all I really care about. Dating has been hit or miss. Had a serious girlfriend for about a year after high school, but she got tired of competing with my work schedule and training regimen. Couple casual things since then, nothing that stuck. I'm seeing this nurse named Amber now who seems pretty cool. Met her at the gym, she came in for a free training session, and we hit it off. Been dating about 3 months. She gets the crazy schedule because hers is just as bad with hospital shifts. Plus, she thinks the fighting thing is hot, so that's a bonus. My brother's following in my footsteps with the gym stuff. Kid's getting built for his age. Not as into the fighting aspect, but he's really taken to powerlifting. Already pulling more than guys twice his age. My sister's more into academic stuff, but I taught her some self-defense moves. No one's ever going to intimidate her the way Rick did. She's talking about pre-med programs for college, has the grades for a scholarship. Dad's doing great. Remarried to Claire who actually treats us with respect. Doesn't try to be our mom, just a cool adult who genuinely cares about us. They're talking about maybe fostering some kids down the line, which I think would be good for both of them. Mom and Rick? Still together somehow. Still toxic from what my siblings tell me. Still alienating everyone around them. Mom's visitation with my siblings has been reduced even further because she kept trying to sneak Rick into the picture. Emma told me that once Mom arranged to meet them at a restaurant and, coincidentally, Rick was eating at the same place. Judge didn't take kindly to that little stunt. The weird thing is I don't even hate Mom anymore. I'm just nothing towards her. It's like she's this person I used to know, like a teacher from elementary school you kind of remember, but don't think about much. The weekly calls feel like a chore, like taking out the trash or doing tax paperwork. Rick, though, still hate that dude with every fiber of my being. Probably always will. Not an active burning hatred, more like a quiet acknowledgement that the world would be a better place without people like him in it. Last Friday night, I was with some buddies watching the game when my phone rings. It's Mom, which is weird because our scheduled call isn't until Sunday. Almost didn't answer, but something in my gut said it might be important. Jason collapsed, she says, all panicked. Took me a second to realize she meant Rick. She always uses his first name like I should know who the fuck she's talking about. Like we're all one big happy family who's on a first name basis. Who? Oh, Rick. What happened? I asked, muting the TV and stepping onto my balcony. She's crying, voice all shaky. He was just sitting there watching TV and then he grabbed his chest and fell over. The ambulance came and took him to Memorial. They think it might be his heart. I'm at the hospital now, but I'm so worried. For a split second, I actually felt a tiny bit bad for her. Not for him. Couldn't care less if Rick lived or died. But Mom sounded genuinely terrified. That feeling evaporated instantly with her next sentence. I need you to come stay with Megan at the house. I can't leave her alone, and I need to be at the hospital. I laughed, actually laughed. You want me to babysit the girl you chose over your own kids? Go kick rocks, Mom, and I hung up. My buddies asked what was up when I came back in, told them the situation, and they all agreed I made the right call. We went back to watching the game, but I couldn't focus. Not because I felt guilty, but because I was pissed that she had the audacity to ask me for a favor like that. She called back an hour later with Plan B. Now she wanted to drop Megan off at our place. Are you fucking kidding me? I said. Megan's what, 20? Now she's a grown-ass adult who can stay by herself. And even if she couldn't, that's not my problem. She's very upset, Mom pleaded. She shouldn't be alone right now. And that's my problem because we're family, she said, like that meant something. No, Mom, we're not family. We're legally obligated to speak once a week. That's it. That's all we are. How can you be so cold? After everything, I cut her off. After everything you put us through, are you serious right now? Don't call me again tonight. I hung up and blocked her number for the rest of the evening. She then started harassing my dad with calls until he finally told her to fuck off. But she didn't stop there. She tried again, Saturday, Sunday, even showing up at my apartment Sunday night, which was extra creepy because she's never been there. I heard the knocking around 9 p.m., looked through the peephole, and there she was, eyes all red and puffy from crying, clutching her purse like it contained the last bit of dignity she had left. I didn't open the door, just called through it. "You need to leave. Now please," her voice cracked. "Just 5 minutes. Number leave or I'm calling the cops for trespassing." I meant it too. She stood there for another minute or so, then finally gave up and left. Diesel growled the whole time, sensing my tension. Gave him an extra treat for being a good judge of character. I called Dad to give him a heads up that she might show up at his place next. He said he'd handle it if she did. Told me I was doing the right thing by maintaining boundaries. Emma texted to say Mom had been blowing up her phone too. I told her to block the number for a few days, at least until this emergency passed. By Monday, Mom was full-on desperate. She called and tried to lecture me, but I just ended it. Then the text started, "You're taking your anger at me and Jason out on an innocent girl. How dare you think you're better than Jason? A real man would step up in a family emergency. I raised you better than this." That last one really got me. I fired back. "You didn't raise me at all. For the last 5 years, a judge literally decided you were unfit to do so." She didn't respond to that one. Hit too close to home, probably. On Tuesday, she showed up at my gym while I was training a client, an older guy named Bill who's trying to get in shape after a diabetes diagnosis. We were in the middle of a set of seated rows when Mom burst in, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Hair all messy, wearing the same clothes as Sunday night when she came to my apartment. "I need to talk to you," she announced, standing right in front of my client. "I'm working," I said flatly. "You need to leave. It's an emergency," she insisted. Bill, who's the nicest dude ever, said he could take a break. I apologized and told him I'd comp his next session for the interruption. He nodded and headed to the water fountain, giving us some space. Mom launched into this whole tearful speech about how Rick's condition was worse, how they found blockages in 3 arteries, how he needed bypass surgery, but the insurance was being difficult, how she needed to be at the hospital, how Megan was falling apart, how she had literally no one else to turn to. "What about Rick's family?" I asked. They don't talk to us anymore," she admitted. "Why not?" I pressed. She looked down. "Jason had a falling out with his brother a few years ago, and his parents, they didn't approve of us getting together so soon after I divorced your father." "What about your sisters, your friends from work?" "Nobody will help us." "Maybe there's a reason for that, Mom. Maybe it's because Rick is an abusive asshole who alienated everyone in his life, and you enabled him every step of the way." She flinched like I'd slapped her. "That's not fair." "Not fair? You know what's not fair? Having to walk on eggshells in your own home because some rageaholic might put his fist through a wall if you breathe wrong. Not fair is watching your mother choose a man who terrorized her kids. Not fair is having to go to therapy at 16 because your home life was so fucked up." And that's when it hit me. They'd burned every bridge they had, every relationship destroyed. They'd created this little toxic bubble where it was just the two of them against the world, and now that bubble had burst. I looked at my mom, really looked at her. She seemed so much older, worn down by years of cleaning up Rick's messes, both literal and figurative. The woman who used to sing along to the radio while making pancakes on Saturday mornings, who knew how to braid Emma's hair just right, who taught me to ride a bike. She was gone. In her place was this hollow-eyed stranger who'd sacrificed everything for a man who punched walls. For a split second, I almost felt sorry for her. "Mom," I said calmly, "I'm not the solution to your problems. I'm the consequence of your choices." She broke down completely then, sobbing about how sorry she was, how she should have chosen us, how she'd made a terrible mistake staying with Rick, all the things I'd wanted to hear for years. "I know I messed up," she cried. "I know I can't fix it, but please just help me this one time. I'll never ask for anything again." A few of my coworkers were staring now. Miguel caught my eye from across the gym, silently asking if I needed him to intervene. I shook my head slightly. "Where is Megan now?" I asked. "At the house. She hasn't eaten in 2 days. She's not answering her phone when I call to check on her. Jesus Christ. So she left a potentially suicidal young woman alone to come harass me at work? Mother of the year." "Tell you what," I said. "I'll help you find a professional caregiver for Megan. I'll even pay for a few days, but I'm not playing family with you anymore. You made your choice years ago." She looked like she wanted to argue but knew she had zero leverage. Finally, she nodded. As I walked her out of the gym, she kept saying how she'd make it up to me, how things would be different now. Classic bargaining from someone who only reached out when she needed something. I just nodded and said, "Text me Megan's information and I'll arrange for someone to check on her. That's all you're getting from me." Later that night, I looked up some care services online and arranged for a home health aide to check on Megan for the next 3 days. Cost me $600. I didn't really have to spare, but it was worth it to end this chapter on my terms. The service specialized in mental health crisis situations. They'd make sure Megan ate, took any medication she needed, and wouldn't harm herself. That was more than enough. I didn't do it for Mom. I did it because no matter how I felt about Rick or Mom or the whole situation, Megan was just collateral damage in all this, same as me and my siblings had been. Difference was, she didn't have a dad to rescue her. The next day, my mom texted, "The lady you sent is very nice. Thank you." I didn't respond. Nothing left to say. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's moving on, living well, and occasionally, it's watching someone realize exactly what they threw away when they need it most. Am I the asshole for not stepping up more? Maybe to some people, but those people didn't live with Rick's fist in the walls or watch their mother choose a violent man over her own kids. Those people didn't spend their teenage years with their heart racing every time a door slammed. My dad says he's proud of how I handled it. And me? I'm just glad to be the kind of man Rick never was and never could be. I've been asked if I'll go to Rick's funeral if he doesn't make it. The answer is, hell no. I won't dance on his grave, but I won't pretend to mourn him either. Some people leave the world better than they found it. Others make everything they touch worse. Rick is firmly in the second category. Update. Rick survived the surgery. Mom texted yesterday to let me know, like I'd be relieved or something. I didn't respond. Diesel and I went for a long run instead. Enjoyed the sunshine, picked up some steaks on the way home, grilled them on my little patio while listening to a podcast about starting your own business. The world kept turning, just like it always does. Final update. A buddy sent me a Facebook screenshot showing Mom had posted some dramatic "praise God he's coming home" update about Rick leaving the hospital. Complete with "a family is everything" hashtag that made me want to puke. Guess some people never learn. I blocked her on all social media, deleted her number from my phone, and decided the weekly calls can now be monthly emails instead. My time is too valuable to waste on people who don't deserve it.